Hi, I'm Janice and I hope you're doing well. If you've been following this channel for a few months now, you would have known that a couple months ago I went to Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, and I've been meaning to make this video for the longest time because I think it perfectly wraps up that trip. I never got around to it until now, so here are 10 things to know before visiting Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. First things first, getting into the country. Because I didn't intend on staying over 30 days, I was able to get an e-visa through their national web portal. I paid 37 Aussie dollars for my e-visa, and I've also linked below the site where I got this visa. On their FAQ page, it says that it takes 3 working days to process a complete application after the full fee has been received. For me, my application was actually processed within 24 hours of me submitting my completed application and also paying the fee. I'd also suggest printing out a hard copy for when you go through customs and immigration. It's just handy to have that on you. Next up, getting a SIM card. The 3 main mobile internet providers in Vietnam, there's Mobifone, Viettel, and Vinaphone. Their network coverage are pretty much the same if you're staying in the city area. It only really starts to differ if you're leaving the city and going to the countryside. SIM cards are easily purchased from when you land at the airport. And by easily purchased, I mean there are so many different phone kiosks at the airport. So much so that I got a little bit of like decision paralysis because there was just so many different choices at varying different price points. I ended up getting a SIM card from Mobifone, but it was actually labeled as way to go. I ended up paying 250,000 dong for 6 gigs of 4G data that's valid for 30 days after activation. It also came with 60 minutes of local calls and also 100 local SMSs, which to be honest, I didn't actually end up using much at all. I got this SIM at a Song Viet booth at the airport. And what they told me was that if I ended up using the 6 gigs of data, I can buy a Mobifone top-up card. These cards offer 2 gigs of additional data at 35,000 dong, and I can get them at either Mobifone stores or like local convenience stores. And yes, you can probably get a SIM card for a little bit cheaper if you leave the airport and go into the city. But honestly, for a couple bucks more, it's a lot more convenient, and I can actually use the data to call a Grab car to leave the airport. But more on that later. Before we leave the airport, I just want to say that there is free Wi-Fi at the international airport, but my phone just kept dropping out of the connection. There are also some shops and fast food restaurants at the airport like Macca's and Starbucks and Burger King. I ended up going to Starbucks to wait for my friend to land and got a coffee, used their Wi-Fi, and everything was fine. Now, leaving the airport. Once I got my SIM card, I left the airport. I downloaded an app called Grab, which is pretty much Uber for Vietnam. My accommodation was about 10 kilometers away from the airport, and because it was peak hour traffic at the time, it took about 40 minutes to get there. The cost of our ride was 100,000 dong, but there was also a 10,000 dong airport surcharge added on top of that, so the entire trip came to 110,000 dong. There's an option to add your credit card details into the Grab app, but I didn't do that. I just paid for my ride in cash. If you're looking to do that as well, make sure you get cash before you get into the car. Speaking of cash, I used cash for pretty much everything when I was in Ho Chi Minh City, from getting food to transport to getting souvenirs. And as you know, I'm not very good at recommending places to exchange cash because whenever I travel overseas, I typically use my bank card and get cash from ATMs because the bank I'm with offers a pretty good rate. There are ATMs at the airport, and as usual, if you do know a good place where you can exchange cash when in Ho Chi Minh City, please let us know in the comments below. Now, getting around Ho Chi Minh City. The public transport network isn't very extensive in Ho Chi Minh City, and most locals actually get around using either their motorbikes or their scooters. Of course, you can rent a bike as well to get around the city, but that wasn't really an option for me because I'd never been on a motorbike or a scooter before, and I just didn't think that zipping around the intense traffic of Ho Chi Minh City was the best place to start for a first timer. And to be honest, I think it was to the benefit of everybody that I didn't get on a bike. So instead, I went everywhere using a Grab. I think a car is your best bet, especially when you're traveling in groups. But if you're traveling solo, you can easily hire a motorbike taxi as well using the Grab app. I paid for all my rides in cash, but as I've said before, you can add your credit card details to the Grab app if you want to pay using a credit card. The other thing I really like about this app is that you can text your driver. And so I can text my Grab driver in English and my Grab driver can text me in Vietnamese. And the app directly translates all these messages back into our respective languages, which is extremely handy. For reference, I also want to give you a few price reference points as to how much you can expect to pay for Grab rides when you're in Ho Chi Minh City. So let me just pull up my app. So for example, when I traveled from Rivergate Residence, which was where I stayed at, to Turtle Lake, it costed 42,000 dong. When I went from Rivergate Residence to the Ban Chan Market, it was 31,000 dong. So just like Uber, the prices fluctuate depending on demand. So for example, if it's absolutely pouring outside and it's peak hour traffic, you can expect the fare to go up a little bit. But for the most part, especially if you're sharing with say 3 people, it is an extremely affordable and safe way to get around the city. So Grab was the only thing I used to get around the city, but if you want to take a taxi as well, make sure you stick to either My Linh or Vinasun. I really hope I pronounced that correctly. They are 2 very reliable taxi companies in Ho Chi Minh City and your best bet to avoid any potential taxi scams. So now let's talk about where to stay. So Ho Chi Minh City is divided into 24 districts, with District 1 being the main city center and where a lot of the big hotels are located. I didn't stay at a hotel, I actually stayed at an Airbnb in District 4, which was very comfortable and comparatively a lot more affordable than the hotels in District 1. I stayed at a place called Rivergate Residence, which came with free Wi-Fi, pool access and gym access, and there were also a couple convenience stores directly downstairs and also a coffee shop directly downstairs as well. And I also want to add that you don't have to be traveling in a group to go for an Airbnb. When I was looking through the listings, I found that there were a lot of studio apartments available that are very affordable, even if you are a solo traveler. Number 8. I'd actually suggest going on day tours and making a day trip out of visiting places that are a little bit out of the way and a little bit out of the city, such as Mekong Delta and the Cu Chi Tunnels. I went online and booked myself into a Cu Chi Tunnels half-day tour. It costed me 15 Aussie dollars and it included transport, a bottle of water, and also a guided tour in English. I personally thought it was a really interesting experience and really would have wanted to go on to the Mekong Delta tour as well. But because it was a full day, I just didn't have enough time during my trip in Vietnam last time. But I really would recommend checking those tours out. And if you're interested, I've linked the place where I booked my tour in my description below. And number 9, I want to talk about crossing the roads in Ho Chi Minh City. I've made a video talking about this briefly.
Okay, the roads are so intense. I don't actually know how I'm going to be able to cross it.
But I want to talk about it again because it is quite an experience. Seeing the traffic in person for the first time and knowing that I needed to get to the other side is a little bit overwhelming. I think the best tip I can give you is if you can find a local, try and tag along and cross the road with them. If you can't find a local, the second tip that I can give you is to make sure that you walk at a steady pace. The worst thing that you can do is if you suddenly run or if you suddenly stop. Walk at a steady pace and the motorcyclists and the scooters will kind of weave around you, so you walking at a steady pace makes it easier for them to do that. Number 10, be prepared to haggle, especially at tourist hotspots like the Ban Chan Market. I actually bought a few things from the market and made a video about it, and going into it, I knew that the prices were going to be inflated and I was prepared to haggle. But having read some of the comments that you guys left on that video, it seems like I should have haggled harder. And I also remember one instance when I wanted to get some coconuts from a street vendor. And when he told me that it was 50,000 dong for one coconut, I was like, nah, it's okay. And I started to walk away. And as soon as I started to leave, he was like, okay, I'll give it to you for 30,000. So just keep that in mind when you are there. I also made videos on things to do and things to eat when in Ho Chi Minh City. If you want to watch these videos, I'll link them right here. I know this video was a little bit out of place and a little bit out of order, but I really wanted to make it because it kind of wraps up that trip nicely. So thank you for bearing with me. If you're still watching, thank you so much for watching till the end. I post new videos Tuesdays and Fridays. Check them out if you have time. Have an amazing rest of the week and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Has anyone been noticing that I've been putting these random clips at the end of the video? If you have noticed, don't say anything in the comments below. Put your favorite food emoji in your comment so that I know that you know. Okay, that's it for today. Bye.